Perfect. Now comes the attacking part. This is going to be the fun part. As usual, this is what we do, on most of our engagements. We are still seeing ESC1 very heavily misconfigured, I would say. So we'll talk about more details. So let's start off with what is ESC1, and then we'll build from there. Right, so Shashi, what's ESC1?
So ESC1 is an escalation technique which can abuse a misconfigured template. Okay, and what is the misconfiguration here? So misconfiguration is in the template that it allows for subject alternative names to be specified in a template. Okay. So that's the vulnerability here.
Okay. So question is there misconfiguration in a property, or what is it? So, what's the misconfiguration?
So it's the misconfiguration is in the sysadmin that's doing that, because by default this option is not enabled. Okay. But because of some applications, there are scenarios where we can enable this subject alternative name property, and we can use it for let's suppose you want to have a certificate for some, basically one client can ask certificate as some different person. Okay. But the issue is here that when they are creating the certificate, first they are allowing the subject alternative name, and the second thing that they are doing, they are allowing low privilege users to enroll in the certificate. So that is the vulnerability here. Okay. These two things combined is the vulnerability here.
Okay. Excellent. So, and how can an attacker actually exploit this or exploit ESC1 and compromise the domain?
Yeah. So first of all, let me talk about I would say the inventors of these kind of attacks. Let's which are Will Strodel and Lee Christian. They have done excellent work on ADCS, and they have in their white paper or the research paper that they have launched, I would say that in that they have shown all the techniques here. So using this, they have also, while creating that research paper, they have implemented a very nice tool which is called certify.exe. It's a Windows executable. We can use this certify.exe tool to exploit ESC1, ESC2 and all these certificate based attacks. This tool has also been ported in Certipy as well, which is the Python version of this tool. So in most of my engagements, I use Certipy just because it's I feel like it's easier than Certify. So that's why I use Certipy. So using Certipy, we can abuse this ESC1. Okay. So basically, we will first enumerate the certificates, and then we will see it. The tool will show you that this certificate is vulnerable for ESC1, and then using the Certipy tool, we can request a certificate for a domain administrator. Since we can, as we just mentioned, since we as a client or a user can specify another alternate name for the certificate, we will go for a high privilege user, which is the domain administrator. Okay. And once we get a certificate for the domain administrator, then we can just authenticate in the domain using the domain administrator. Okay. And we all know what will happen if they have.
So this is kind of like privilege escalation from domain user to domain admin, right? Okay, cool. So let's get on to the practicals. We'll showcase, what's going on, and then before we move to how we fix this.
So guys, let's go to the practicals, and then I will show you how easily it is to exploit these. So if I am starting the engagement, and that's when I run this Certipy tool, that's the first thing I do in my engagement to enumerate the certificate templates. So if there is a certificate template that is vulnerable to ESC1 or any of the templates, I think it's game over. In just about 15 minutes of the start of the engagement, we are pawning the domain. So that's how easy this attack is. So since this is an easy attack and it has a higher impact, I think our audience should be, or all the security professionals, be it attackers or the defenders, should be, when I say attackers, I mean security professionals.
ethical hackers.
Yeah, they should be aware about these kind of attacks. So let's go to the practical. So I am on a Kali machine, so I am going to use Certipy. You can use Certify as well. It's just a preference. So
So before you start off, this is the practical is done in an Active Directory domain.
So this system, this Kali system is not a domain joined machine. It's just a disjoint machine.
It's
It doesn't
on
matter.
it's just on the network.
So basically, what we are showcasing here is the breach simulation.
Okay.
So let's suppose via phishing or via password spraying, we have a creds of a user, and now and that user is a low privilege user. Now how we can use that low privilege user credential to become a domain administrator? So this is the escalation technique, which is ESC1.
And it's very difficult for attackers to catch this, right?
Yeah, this is very easily to catch.
It's easy to catch.
Yeah, it's
okay.
easy. No, it's not easy. Sorry, sir. I thought you were asking whether how easy is to attack. Yeah. So in case of detection, if you're asking, it's very difficult to detect. Why? Basically, you have to go to the certificate authority and you have to see what kind of authentication is happening. So if there is a authentication that is happening from a low privilege user, to ask for a certificate as a domain administrator, then it's a sus there, right? So that's these kind of things the domain administrator or the IT administrator has to see.
Okay.
So yeah, a bit difficult to catch, but it's not if you.
It's not impossible, but it's difficult to. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's start off. Yes.
So as everything, we start with the enumeration. So let's enumerate. So we have this amazing tool which is Certify, and then we are going to use the find module to find a template. Let's use the username. Let's suppose that we have a user that we have, which is David, and the password is DIBAD @ So this is the password, and we will specify the name or the IP address of the DC, which is DC IP 10.11.15.100. This is the IP address of the DC. And then we will use flags which are we only want to get the templates that are vulnerable. That's why we have the vulnerable flag. Then we will use the enabled flag. So this will show only the templates that are enabled. So you can only enroll in the certificate which is enabled. That's why. And then we will, for our convenience, we will just output it in the standard console window. So let's do that. I hope the command is pretty clear. Okay. So now if you see, so this is the CA, which is the secure CA, and if you see the DNS name, it is the name of our domain controller. Because we just talked about that in our case the CA is installed on a domain controller. That's why. And it is vulnerable to all kinds of attack. ESC7, ESC8 is the one that we discussed in the previous podcast, which is again a very easy attack. And then this is vulnerable to ESC3, ESC2, and then it is also vulnerable to ESC4 as well and ESC1. So today we are going to be talking about ESC1, 2, 3. So we are going to be starting with ESC3. Okay. So now we know that there is a certificate template. Let's go to the properties. So name of the template is secure template. Second thing, this is enabled. And third and most important thing, this template is enabled for client authentication. So we can use this template for authenticated to the domain. And the third and the most important thing is that enrollee's supply subject is set to true. It means that a client or a user can specify an alternate name for enrolling in a certificate. Okay. So yeah, so the beauty about this tool is that it will also show you that which escalation techniques you can use. And yeah, if you can see that domain users can enroll in this certificate. So every user in a domain is part of domain users group. So that's what we see in our engagement as well. Most of the time is either authenticated user or a domain user. So it's very easy to catch as well. If we can just see this, it's giving enrollments to domain users.
So at this point, you know you are domain admin, right?
At this point, we know that we have domain admin.
Okay.
And in just 3 steps, it's game over. First is the enumeration. The second step, we will get the certificate. Third step, we will get the hash or the TGT of the domain admin. So the first step is done. Let's go to the second step, which is again certify. This time, let's request. Let's use, this time, let's request. Then same user, we can specify since this user is a part of a domain users group. Password is @@@. Let's specify the name of the template. which was secure template, and then we will specify the name of the CA, certificate authority, which is secure CA in our case. And we will also give the target, which is the DNS name of the certificate authority, so that this tool can reach out to that authority. So in our case, it's dc02.security.redfox.local. I hope I have typed it correct. And certify request. Okay, so let's again go to this command, and and now the important thing is we have to provide the UPN, which is the universal principal name. Here we can specify the name of a domain administrator. @security.redfox.local. So let me just repeat the command. So we are using a certified tool, and request is for requesting a certificate. Then we are specifying the name of user and the password. Then we using the template flag, we will specify the name of the template. Then we will specify the name of the certificate authority. Then the DNS name of the certificate authority server. Then the UPN, which is the universal principal name. And this is where, as a David user, we can ask certificate for a administrator.
Domain admin.
Why? Because this certificate allows for subject alternative name.
Okay.
That's why. And it also allows low privilege users to.
So 3 conditions.
Yeah.
One is client authentication.
Correct.
It has to be enabled.
Yeah.
And the flag that you spoke about.
Subject alternative name.
Subject alternative.
Or we can say enroll supply subject.
Okay.
And the third thing is the
Domain users
can enroll in this.
Okay. So these are the conditions needed for ESC1.
ESC.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So let me just request a certificate for, as a David user, let me request a certificate for administrator for this template, which for this vulnerable template. So as we can see, now we have the certificate of a domain administrator. And since this certificate allows for client authentication, we can authenticate using this certificate template. So what like not a normal users will just authenticate to the domain. We as a pen testers or red teamers or ethical hackers, we can use this certificate and extract the we can request a TGT from the domain controller, and using from the TGT we can also extract the hash of the domain admin. So which can be used for persistence as well, or which can be used for like dumping all the hashes in the domain.
And so this certificate.
This is the second part.
Yeah, so the certificate itself is valid for a very long time as well, right? So
yeah, so the certificate timing, if we just go here, and it will also show you, I think, the time of the certificate. So if you see, the validity period is 1 year. So if we compromise the certificate of a domain administrator, even if they change their password, this certificate is still valid for client authentication.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the second part, and now we can just authenticate using this certificate. So let's do that. Certify, we'll use the auth module, then we'll specify the certificate file, which is administrator.pfx, and then we will specify the DCIP, which is 10.11.15.100. And if you see, first using this certificate, this is the principal name that it is using basically it is authenticating as domain admin, and then it is getting a TGT. So and then it is saving the TGT as administrator.cache file, and from this TGT we can also extract the anti-random hash of the administrator. So we can use so basically the tool is using the unpack the hash attack to extract the hash anti-random hash from the
domain controller,
from the TGT.
From the TGT. Okay.
So if we just quickly do that, if you see, this is the cache file, which is the TGT, and this is the certificate. And using this TGT, it is extracting the, basically it is using the U2U extension of Kerberos to request a valid TGT, and in that TGT, when we are opting for a PK init authentication, and then in that TGT, it will have the anti-hash password of the domain administrator as well in the pack component of the TGT. And using the U2U extension of Kerberos, we can extract that. So yeah, maybe in some future video, maybe I will go in more detail about this unpack the hash attack. But for now, I think it's enough. So yeah, this is how in 3 steps: enumeration, requesting the certificate, and then authenticating and getting the hash of the administrator.
So that's how easy it is.
That's how easy it. If you see, it hardly took me 10 minutes with the explanation. In our engagement, we can just in few minutes, 2, 3, 5 minutes, we are getting to the domain administrator.
Wow.
with all the security they have in their domains, if they are done this simple misconfigurations, the game over there.
Game is over right there.
In the prevention part, I will also show you how you can defend it.
Okay.
As well.
Cool. So now we'll talk about the prevention, right?
Let's talk about the prevention. So how you can prevent this attack. So let me just show you directly live how you can prevent this attack. Okay.
So we are talking about prevention of ESC1. Okay.
So let's go to manage.
So right now you're on the domain controller.
Right now I'm on the domain controller. So right now I have switched to the domain controller. And I think it was the secure template, if I'm not, So if we go to the properties, so let's see the vulnerabilities first. Okay. So that's what is happening here. So by default, this option is enabled. Okay, this is by default. But because of some security reasons or maybe some for applications, they are using this supply in request. So basically this functionality is made for high privilege users so that they can request a certificate for someone else. But that is okay. It's a valid option. But what they are doing is that if you go to this security option and if you see the domain users, if you see they are allowing anyone to enroll in this certificate.
That's the issue.
That's the issue. Okay. Generally, they should have. Ideally, they should have a domain admins to be enrolling in this certificate, or maybe some other group or high privilege group that can enroll in this template. So what they can do, first thing that they can do, so first of all, they can just disable this option if they don't require it. So that's the first prevention they can do. They can just enable this option. If let's suppose they need this for business purpose, what they can do, they can just go to the security tab and remove the domain users from here. So let's click here and remove here. Or maybe then they can just deselect this option. Okay, let me just remove this because it's not needed here. Okay, and I think one more important thing is here. Let's go to the general tab. This is the validity, and there is one more property here. Let me just find that property real quick if I can. I think this is the requirement. So since this is a high privilege template, right? Because this is made for a domain administrator to ask certificates for other client. What they can do, they can also enable this option. So this is like a 2FA, two-factor authentication. Basically, for every request for enrollment comes to the certificate authority. Now, before it is the responsibility of a certificate manager to approve that request. At that time, they can see who is asking for that certificate. So this is the option that they can enable for two-factor authentication. So these three options. Subject name, they can change it to this option, but if they require it, then they can just enable it and then change the security and remove the domain users or the low privilege users from here. I think we can also remove this authenticated users. Looks like authenticated user is not allowed to enroll, so that's okay. And the third requirement is they can just enable the certificate manager approval. So these are the options that they can use. And I have just disabled the domain users from that security descriptor. So this is how they can prevent it. So if we can again just quickly use the certify tool to find that certificate, the secure certificate, we know that is vulnerable. And we click here, enter here. So if you see, there is no secure template here which is vulnerable. We have other templates which are vulnerable for other kind of escalation, but ESC1 is not present here. So that's how they can, that's how easy is to protect it. So that's the detection part here. So let me just switch to the slides. So these are, in brief, let me just explain that these are the three requirements that we just talked about, and this is how we can enumerate, and this is how we have exploited it, and practical I have already shown, and this is how we can propagate the same things that I have just shown there. Okay. So for the viewers, they can just pause it here and they can just view it. Check it out.